Welcome into our NFL upsets video for week number 8, where we outline our favorite money line underdogs of the week. Last week in week 7, we did not cash in on our picks, but it was a low upset week as there were only 2 underdogs that pulled off the outright upset. One of them was the Indianapolis Colts. They were only a mild underdog of 2.5 points. They beat the Chargers out west. And then, of course, on Thursday Night Football, a game we talked about a little bit, but we didn't add to our list, the Cincinnati Bengals ended up upsetting the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, Jason, hopefully we get a few more upsets this week. We've seen the pendulum swing back and forth throughout this season. The first 3 weeks or so, we saw barely any upsets, and then it came with a vengeance there for a little bit. How do you see this week shaping up?
This is one where there's not that many, unless you want to play like San Francisco, there's not that many short dogs that I like. And I know we kind of like Houston in that situation. So I think we're looking at taking some swings this week. We'll get into them, but there's a lot of bigger dogs this week. A lot of spreads of at least 6 points, and with the money line corresponding. So I think lots of ways to go on some of these bigger upsets.
Yeah, and before we get into those, I want to remind all of you that we do put out a newsletter every week, and on every Thursday, it has our 3 favorite upset picks. So for whatever reason you can't watch this video, or you just don't know where to find it or whatever, go ahead, subscribe to that newsletter called By the Numbers NFL. I will put it in the description. I will also pin a comment below so you can get that. Great way to follow along. If you're not able to catch the video and just get them delivered straight into your inbox. So with that, Jason, let's go. We're going to list each of our favorite money line underdogs for the week. My favorite, your favorite, and then we're also going to go over to our BetIQ betting model, and we're going to take the top money line underdog in terms of value from there. So why don't we start, Jason, with your favorite money line underdog for this week?
So my favorite money line underdog, and I'm going completely opposite our models here. So I'm going to lay this out. We'll lay out why, because our models take information, right, and base it on the number, the total, and what those teams have done, kind of what the expectation is, and it combines all these factors. And so our model has Baltimore minus 6.5. And with the corresponding money line where they're laying minus 275 roughly. I just think there's a lot of systemic risk here with this number. I think so. This is more of like a value play on the Bears, where it's at like plus 226 or a 6.5 point dog. This is a situation where I think most of us thought Lamar Jackson was definitely playing week 8. Like he missed 2 games and they had the bye week. It was like, okay, he's going to miss. And they really struggled in those games. He missed them both, went to the bye. And so you thought, okay, 3 weeks, he'll be ready to go for, 4 weeks later. Then he didn't practice Monday, certainly not an official practice, nothing that means he's out. But the fact that he wasn't like ready to go more than 3 weeks later is concerning. And we saw the line drop to 6.5 from 7. I think 7 is a fair number if he's playing. Honestly, I think the Bears are close to an average team. This game's in Baltimore. Baltimore, we think, is an above average team, though certainly we haven't seen evidence of that. We're relying on faith that this defense is going to turn it around. So I think there's a lot of like variance around this thing, and you're getting 6.5, right? And then I think there's I like to find where I think there's asymmetric risk. And I think there's asymmetric risk here, meaning what I mean by that is I don't feel terrible if he plays and he couldn't run until Wednesday and he still hasn't practiced in a non-limited fashion as a running quarterback. I don't feel like I'm catching a terrible number even if he plays as a bigger dog. Because there is that defense and all these things, and the Bears have played reasonably well. But I think the upside is this number could close at a pick 'em. it could close a Chicago favored like we saw with Houston a few weeks ago. Because you remember they opened that line at like 6.5. Apparently the books thought he was going to play a week after his injury. Opened at 6.5. It got pounded down to where Houston was favored. And we didn't get these opportunities in the past. Like if I'm old, I got the gray hair. These games used to be off the board until we knew the quarterback was playing. This game would have been listed as off 20 years ago. You wouldn't have been able to go on either side. Well, now if you can kind of judge the market and like where the risk is. So I guess what I'm saying is the fact that he's practiced on a limited basis, but didn't look like he's out there running full speed, not running with the first team. I think I'm reading the tea leaves. There's a very viable chance he doesn't play. And I think there's pressure for him to play because they're 1-5. So there's also the chance that he tries to play and he really shouldn't. Like he's not quite 100%, but he, my team's 1-5. I need to save the season. Both of which I'm fine playing the dog in, right? And so that's kind of where I'm at. Is I think I'm getting closing line value, or at least the potential of it. That's certainly way more than where this number. Like they aren't middling this number. They aren't pricing this at like 3.5 on the chance he does play versus he doesn't. I think they're mostly assuming he plays, and I don't know that I'm there. I think there's definite risk that they get to Saturday, and if he hasn't run full practice by Thursday, Friday, I'd be worried because he's not like a pocket passer, right? He needs his legs. He needs these legs, and if they aren't 100%, there's definite downside risk for Baltimore. So Chicago plus 226 on the chance you might be able to middle it or come back if Chicago's the favorite, but if Jackson is in fact ruled out by Sunday.
Yeah, and just a reminder that we record this on Wednesday afternoon, so injury news always coming and going. Be sure to check on that injury news, that specific injury news with Lamar Jackson before going out and grabbing this. I just want to ask you one quick follow-up question to that, Jason. If it's announced that Lamar Jackson is playing, say, either Thursday, Friday, whatever, do you think this line's going to move, or is it just going to move that half point back up to 7, or is that like about the extent of it?
I would be surprised if it got much over 7. Maybe I think it'll go to 7 if he's playing. Now, whether it should, like I said, because it's not just all or nothing. It's, I remember there's a game a couple of years ago with Justin Herbert, where he had cracked ribs. We thought he was out. They rolled him in. The line shot back up, and he shouldn't have played. And I think that's also in play. Like, I think Jackson shouldn't play, but is trying to save his team and isn't 100% is in play, where I maybe it shouldn't, but I do think the line will move. If you're asking me what will happen, if Jackson's active, it will be at 7, and it could get to 7.5. But then you're talking, okay, I lost a little bit of value on the money line.
Yep. Very marginal.
52, yeah. And versus, I've now got the favorite at plus 220 something when it goes off.
Yeah. So moving on, my favorite upset pick of the week. I'm going a little different strategy than you, Jason. You went against our model. I'm rolling with it. This is the model's second favorite upset pick. Obviously, we're going to get to the top upset pick of the week after this, but I am rolling with the G-Men, the New York Giants on the road at Philadelphia. I'm seeing this money line at plus 324 is where we have it. The spread is plus 7.5, just to give you a quick reference there. Of course, the Giants, they won against the Eagles in very surprise fashion at home just a couple weeks ago. So this is an interesting rematch of a team that, I mean, that spread is basically the same as where it was. Of course, the Giants on the road now, so it has adjusted a little bit for that. But the Giants, they're a tough team to really rate, and I think it's a tough team for the market to rate right now because there's just such a wide range of outcomes with them. Of course, you got rookie quarterback, rookie backfield on the road there. Philadelphia looked a little bit better last week against Minnesota. Jalen Hurts looked better, finally got the passing game going. Is that for real, or is that something just a one-game blip on the radar? That's the only cause for concern that I really have as it goes with the Giants here. But I mean, the Giants have just shown that they can punch up above their weight here. They've already done it with the Eagles. It's a little I think it goes against the Giants having these games so close together that they just beat Philadelphia. But I don't know. How do you feel about this one? I just think that the Giants have it in them to pull off the upset. I almost feel like we talked about that variance. The Giants could go in there and theoretically win, or they could get blown out. Like and that's kind of where you want to, take your shots against the money line. It all comes down to how they respond to this game, how last week in this game when they gave up that huge lead at Denver. Just a colossal collapse in the fourth quarter of that game. So, how do you feel about the Giants here getting basically more than 3-1 money?
Yeah, I mean, I like the Giants as a play, like you laid it out. I like the 7.5. I like the Giants as a high variance play, as you said. They are, um, you know, they've been up and down. They pull the upset of the Chargers as an underdog. They pull the upset of Philadelphia as the underdog. They should have beat Denver as the underdog. They lost at New Orleans as a slight favorite. I believe they went off maybe as a favorite or as a close game in kind of a letdown spot. So to me, this is more like, I mean, they've shown that they will be competitive when we have these expectations. And this is the kind of team I think you want to lean into on like variance, right? With money line. You're hoping for those outlier outcomes. Well, we have the elements. We have a different quarterback than the start of the season. The team has played better with that quarterback. The overall season rating is still being pulled down by the other games. The expectation is a bit unknown because it's a rookie quarterback. There's just a wider variance of outcomes, I think. And then we've got this, they look, I mean, that Philadelphia win wasn't like some upsets can be fluky in the sense like, oh, they got a pick six, they got some turnovers. Philadelphia, just put the ball on the ground. That wasn't how that game played out. They took the lead. There was a chance for them to wilt, and instead they basically shut Philadelphia down in the second half and controlled that game. And so, you wonder, do they match up well? Are they going to do well again, getting 7.5? And laying these points? I think it's worth the chance. I like their chances better in the market numbers.
Yeah, and I was trying to look up. I think the Giants could be a public dog against the spread this week, but I just looked up the splits, and it seems like 50-50, pretty much at that 7.5 number. But yeah, we'll see how this one plays out. The Giants on the road in this one. And I think it comes down to what the Eagles are going to do, if they sort of revert back to where they were a few weeks ago, or if Jalen Hurts is actually progressing and looking better and leading this offense. So a couple things to look for there, but I do like the odds, the money line odds with the Giants. So looking at our third upset pick, we're going to head to the BetIQ model. What are you seeing there, Jason?
Well, yes, our model top pick right now.
Our model loves the gross picks.
It loves the gross picks. It always does. Loves Cleveland.
Money line that's a pretty gross pick.
At New England, yeah. That number is right around plus 285, right around at, think are they under a touchdown now? Maybe 6.5. Maybe it's 7.
I saw it 7 last.
Yeah. And so it's hovering right around that number. Yeah. Cleveland at New England. Why does our model keep liking Cleveland? That's a good question, but I do think there are some reasons why. Their defensive numbers, they can run the ball at times. They, so if you look at like yards to points, they have really underachieved. The defense there's more points allowed than they should based on the defensive yards, right? That could be due to offensive turnovers, failing in the red zone, opponents converting in the red zone at a higher rate, making kicks, all that stuff. So Cleveland has kind of underperformed their yardage profile. And so I think that's one factor our model keeps picking up with Cleveland is this team is underachieving relative to maybe what they should do. We saw early on Joe Flacco threw a bunch of interceptions with Cleveland before they traded him. So another high variance situation, young quarterback, kind of still relative unknown. They're coming off a big win where they got a lot of turnovers against Miami in the home situation. Now they go to New England, a team that this is certainly one of them, but has a very favorable schedule. When are they going to have a letdown spot? They've been passing the ball. They're a high volume pass. This is a Cleveland pass rush that can wreck games and is probably the toughest defense this New England team has faced in a while. And so that is in play. So do I love it? I don't love it, but this is the model. I do understand it. Like this Cleveland team is probably underachieved relative to what their yards have shown. And we're now, they got the bye, or they got to go across. They came back and played Pittsburgh in week. Was it 6? They played Pittsburgh?
Yeah, 2 weeks ago. Yep.
Yeah. And so,
and
then got healthy at home. Got their first home game in a while. So they actually got to stay and sleep in their own beds for the first time in like a month last week. And now we're up to heading to New England. So.
Yeah, and if you watched that week 6 Cleveland at Steelers game, that was terrible play calling on the Browns' part. They threw the ball 52 times against a Steelers team that knew they were going to throw the ball, and they blitzed every single play against a rookie quarterback starting his second game. And it's like the Browns have a decent running game. Quinshon Judkins looked really good so far this season. He looked amazing last week against the Dolphins. I understand that's the Dolphins, and it's not going to be that level of resistance, light resistance this week against the Patriots. Pretty good run defense. But if Cleveland can move the ball on the ground like that and set things up, and then, as you mentioned, that defense maybe force a couple turnovers, maybe a little bit of a shock to the system for the Patriots, who have been facing some pretty shaky defenses in back-to-back games. I think Cleveland has a shot at this. I do like them against the spread, and I think they might be worth a money line sprinkle as an upset pick too. So I'm in agreement with the model here.
Here's why you like Cleveland, right? That defense is. In over half their games, the opponent had 14 or fewer first downs. In over half their games, the opponent had 242 or fewer total yards. Their most given up is 349. So they're probably not gonna get torched by this Patriots offense, probably, which is gonna keep them competitive. Now they have to convert. They probably have to create some turnovers to create the upset, and they have to not turn it over themselves and cash in when they have opportunities, because they're also not going to go out and put up 400 yards of offense, probably, right? But that defense will keep them in games if they don't make the mistakes, or if they can create the mistakes themselves. So yeah, this Cleveland defense is, I think, capable of keep giving them the opportunity to pull the road upset.
Yeah, and those are our top 3 upset picks for week number 8. Go ahead and list your favorite upset pick in the comment section below. And as we mentioned earlier, you can grab these each and every week in our NFL by the Numbers newsletter, which is linked below in the description and pinned in the comment section. Super easy way to stay on top of things, know which games we're looking at and why, plus a lot of other good stuff. Jason goes through his power ratings each and every week in that newsletter. They are released on Tuesdays, then the upset picks on Thursdays. So a great behind the scenes look at how we're evaluating all these NFL teams. Also throw in some trends, notes, other things in there as well. So thanks for watching once again, and good luck with your upset picks in NFL Week 8.